What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. If you've been following my channel long enough and you've seen me upload videos about World of Warcraft or playing World of Warcraft, then you've probably made the observation that my UI is constantly changing. And it wasn't that long ago where I uploaded a video about my new console port setup, the add-on that allows me to play WoW with a controller, and I'm using a DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5. It works really well. I made a video focusing exclusively on console port because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to console port, and I wanted to be as thorough as possible. Now, I should have seen this coming, but when people saw that video and they've seen some of the other recent videos that I've uploaded, they've taken a liking to my UI setup beyond just console port. And so people have asked for me to talk about that stuff, maybe share some profiles, and wonder how they can have a UI that looks similarly to mine. Now, this is a type of video that I've made many times before. So where the other video, we talked exclusively about console port, and if you'd like to see that video, I will have a link in the description below to that video so that you can check it out. Today, we're going to focus on everything else, okay? And I'm going to do my best to be as thorough as possible, so this might be a longer video, and I will include timestamps for you so that you can get to the parts that are most interesting to you. Now, the primary add-on that we're going to look at today is one called ElvUI. It's a UI replacement suite, and it covers a lot of different aspects of the UI. Most of what you're seeing on the screen right now, which there isn't much, admittedly, I have a lot hidden, but most of it is from ElvUI. Kind of. I mean, it's about 50-50 actually, but there's a lot of it that is from ElvUI or is involved with ElvUI in some way. So that's what we're going to mainly go over. Now, I will be sharing my ElvUI profile so that you can import it into ElvUI if you want to. But something that you should keep in mind is that I can upload this video today with my new profile, and ElvUI could have an update. It could have an update before the video releases, actually. It could just happen at any time, and suddenly my profile may not work anymore. Sometimes new updates break older profiles, or even newer profiles, depending on when the update happens. This is something that can happen. It's happened a lot in the past. It's been a recurring problem when I've done this before, and so people will look at videos that are, you know, sometimes a couple months old, sometimes a couple years old, and be frustrated that they can't use my profile. It's not working, and that's something that does happen. And the reason why is because those profiles aren't going to last forever. They will eventually become obsolete, and it is very difficult to keep up with all of my profiles and those things. So, you know, it's hard to keep up with that stuff all the time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm still going to share my profile, but I'm also going to go over my UI, so that way if you can't use my profile, at the very least you can see what I've got going on, you can see what add-ons I'm using, and then you can go and use what I've got as inspiration to set something up for yourself, which may be the best course of action anyway. That way you can make your UI your own. Chances are, because of my circumstances, I am visually impaired. That's why things on my screen are bigger. That's why some things are set up the way they are. You're probably going to have to make adjustments anyway. With ElvUI, you will with every character, because there are certain aspects of ElvUI that you have to adjust on every single character that you make. It's convenient in some aspects, but it's extremely tedious in others, but it just is how ElvUI works. Now, the next thing I want to say is that if you need help setting up your UI, whether it's with ElvUI or anything, I'm going to provide resources for you that I use that have been very helpful. So for ElvUI specifically, ElvUI has its own Discord, which is nice, and ElvUI also has a website with forums that you can go to. Another great resource, and this is just a more general UI help desk, is WowUI, which is a subreddit. So reddit.com/rwowui is another resource that you can go to. I will share a link to that. You can go there. If you have a Reddit account, you can talk to people, you can make posts, ask questions, see what other people are doing. Some of my setup is directly taken from ideas I have seen on WowUI, and I will try to make callouts to those the best I can based on my memory, because I've had some things set up this way for a while now. So I will try my best, but I will admit that some of my ideas have come straight up from ElvUI. It's a great resource. People do incredible work there, and it's just awesome. So Reddit's cool a lot of times for stuff like that. So, but yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and get into this. There's a lot to go over. So like I said, a lot of what you see on my screen is from ElvUI, but there are some things that aren't. So if you look down at the bottom, you will see my action bar. This is from ConsolePort. Okay, so everything down in the bottom center comes from ConsolePort, which is covered in a separate video. So I'm not using ElvUI's action bars, and we'll get into the modules that I am and am not using here in a minute, but I want to make that clear that I won't be covering action bars because that is something that I've covered in a separate video. So keep that in mind, and anything related to the controller will be in that ConsolePort video. Okay, so honestly, the main reason why I use ElvUI, there's one like hard anchor that keeps me attached to this add-on, and that is the add-on's ability to adjust fonts and font sizes for every aspect of WoW's interface. So whether it's panels, what's on screen, you know, all that stuff can be managed through ElvUI, and that's very important for me. Even combat text, it's very important for me because I'm visually impaired, and so having a mod that does that is very important. There are other add-ons out there that do some of that, allowing you to change fonts. You can even achieve it without using an add-on, but not as well as what ElvUI allows me to do. And so that's why I use ElvUI primarily. If not, I might experiment with other add-ons when it comes to different aspects of my UI. But since I do use ElvUI, I try to get the most out of it, and there are a lot of cool features that ElvUI has beyond just being able to change your font face. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up ElvUI here, and I'll show you what I've got set up, what I'm using, and what I'm not using. There's actually a lot that ElvUI can do that I don't use. There are probably a ton of features in here that I'm not taking advantage of. There are probably some things that I have turned on that maybe I shouldn't have turned on, and there are other things that I just may not remember. Okay, so we'll go over most of that, and keep in mind there are going to be things that you will need to adjust because you might want to set things up differently than me. You might not want to use some of the add-ons that I'm using, and you also, you know, might not want to have things where I have them. It just depends on you and what you like, but yeah, we'll go through those. Okay, so first up in the general tab, I like to use the clean bars. You can use all kinds of different bars. If you have shared media set up, then you can get media from other resources that you can use as well, and that includes bars, it includes sound effects, fonts, different things like that. So I like to use the clean bars. Everything else is, I think, as far as I know, pretty standard. I have the UI scale. You can actually adjust that right in ElvUI, which is pretty nice, and it will be different from what is set up in, like, so like if you're out in the loading screen and you have a smaller UI scale outside of, you know, in the loading, like in the menu where your characters are, that can be useful because otherwise, like, things can be really big and look weird there, but then you can come into the game and make things bigger or smaller through ElvUI, which is pretty cool. So yeah, so there's some things here. Like I said, you might have to go over a lot of this yourself, and I'm just going to kind of skim through it because there is so much, just mainly the important things. So this is one of the things that I have to change on every single character. It's not the most fun, but default font will be set for every character, and I use Roboto Black. You can find that easily online. Just Google search it if you want to use it. It's a great font. I like how it looks. It's easy to read without being too big, and I use a font size of 15. So you can change this. I also use an outline, which makes it easier to see. The things I do have to change are the combat text as well as name fonts. So that's the font, like if you have a person running around and you see the name, that's the font that it changes. So for name fonts, I still use Roboto Black, same thing. For combat, for numbers primarily, I use a font called Lemon Milk Bold. You can find that easily online as well. It's both of these fonts are, you know, they're open source, they're royalty free, whatever. So you can find them very easily. Those are what I use. You can upload them through shared media, and then they'll be available in ElvUI. So that's what I use. There are other fonts out there. You can use whatever you want, but those are the ones that I'm using. If you don't have them, I believe ElvUI will set things by default to Expressway. I think that's what ElvUI uses by default. So there are other fonts you can go in and change and mess around with. Most of what I use is Roboto Black. Okay, so next up, cosmetics. Doesn't matter that much. I have a lot of things turned off. I don't really like to use. There are some things in here that I turn off on every single character. I turn off the loot frame. I like the default one better. It's easier for me to see. The ElvUI loot frame is like a bar. It's fine for people that like it. It is nice and compact, but the Blizzard loot frame is easier to see, and also the Blizzard loot frame is interactable with a controller through console port. The ElvUI one is not, so I have that turned off, and I also have the loot roll turned off as well, which is kind of the same idea. So I can interact with the loot roll, the Blizzard default one, with a controller where I can't with ElvUI. So those are things I turn off on every single character. You don't necessarily have to, but just keep in mind that if there's something that ElvUI does that you don't like, you can usually turn it off. So you can use as much or as little of this add-on as you want. I always turn off totem timers. I don't use them. I don't feel like I need them. I like using weak auras. And then, of course, that's pretty much it there. I don't really know what alternative power does, but I don't really use it. So, okay, so action bars. I have them turned off. I don't know how they look with them turned on because I haven't used action bars in years because I've been playing with the controller. So you'll probably have to set these up. Even if you import my profile, you'll probably have to go in and move them around. Remember, you can click the movers here, and if you have action bars on, they'll be around here. You can move them just as you could edit the WoW UI with the edit mode. So it's very similar to that. But yeah, you might have to set those up yourself. Unfortunately, that's just because I haven't used them. I don't need them. ElvUI's or console ports are great now. So I have that turned off. Bags, I have bags turned off as well. Let's go ahead and go over bags real quick. So we'll exit out here. I have bags turned off. They usually are just like set up to be one big bag. You'll have it here on the right side of your screen, so they should be fine out of box. I haven't edited them at all, but I use an add-on called BetterBags. There's also, I think, Baginator. There's a few good bag add-ons out there. I like BetterBags because I like how it categorizes things. It makes things easier to find because everything's so organized. Another cool thing this add-on does is it will consolidate multiple stacks of items. So it will in terms of the appearance, it will go beyond like the 200 stack limit. It'll still take up the same amount of slots in the bag, but visually it'll show me as if everything's one giant stack, which is very nice and very useful. So I like the look and feel of this add-on over what ElvUI can do. So that's the bag add-on I use. Next up, we have buffs and debuffs, and we have that available. That is under our unit frame here. You know, we'll look at those in a little bit. So that's there. Debuffs will appear here next to the character. So if here, I'll show you. If I use lay on hands and I activate forbearance, there's the debuff there. Okay, and so I have those there. I can also click this, and you can see it's the same, looks the same on the target. So, but I use the buffs and debuffs here instead of through the unit frames because you'll be able to right click to cancel a buff if you want to, and it's so much easier to just use this frame and treat it as if it's just under the unit frame. So that's how I have that set up. Chat, I mean, yeah, like there's some cool features in chat. The panels, the cool thing about ElvUI, another big feature that I like, is you can show and hide the chat panel. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go over that now. So chat, I have this on. You can do cool things like alerts. You can have it play sound effects for different chat channels. I do use some of those, and some of the sound effects I had to get elsewhere. I think the ones I use are from an add-on called Pratt, which provides its sound effects in. I took those sound effects, put them in shared media, and I use those, but there are tons of sound effects that you can use if you want to. If you are into that kind of thing, I am visually impaired, and so having sound effects for, you know, chat channels can be very helpful, particularly, you know, like party and raid, those chats, because I, by default, keep my chat frame hidden, right? It's not here. You can't see it. So if I want to be antisocial, I have it turned off. Now, because I am visually impaired, I don't like to have my chat frame on the side of the screen when I want to read something, because then I have to, because I'm nearsighted, then I have to like do this. You probably can't even hear me right now. I have to look all the way over on the side of the screen to see it, and it's just not fun. So I have it hidden all the time unless I want to talk or I hear that talking is happening, and then I can turn it on. And so right now the chat frame is right here in the middle of the screen. You can see it here, and so then I can show and hide this whenever I want, and then I can interact with chat when I want to, hide it, and it's gone. So I actually have my chat right smack dab in the middle of the screen. Okay, and so that's how I do it. I also have it fading quickly, so like when chat happens, it's there for like 10 seconds and then it disappears. So I get a little bit of time to see it. That way, if I want to keep chat up, it's in the middle of my screen and it's not blocking my view too much. Okay, so that's how I do chat, and so that way it's easy to see and I can get rid of it when I don't need it. That's the logic there. That may not work for you, and that's totally understandable. It's understandable, especially if you don't want to like have a keybind to show and hide your chat all the time. But the good news is, just remember, you can go in the movers here and you can move it wherever you want. You can also change the size of it, go to the panels. I don't use the right panel. I don't use it at all. I use the left panel, and you can go down here and set the length and width of the panel. So just remember that. You can edit that however you want. The right panel you can put in with a plugin. You can put in your like your damage meter if you want to, but I don't. I used to, but I don't anymore because I don't feel like it's necessary. My damage meter is set up differently. You know what? Since we're talking about it, we'll go ahead and go over that now. So, used to be through a plugin for ElvUI called Addons skins, I would put my damage meter in the right panel and I could show and hide that way. Now, I don't do that. I like the way I have my damage meter. It's down here at the bottom left, and I can still toggle it on and off with a hotkey, so that's cool. But this is details damage meter that I use. I have it on the bottom left. This is managed outside of ElvUI, so that's something that I have set up separately. Now, people might like this style. I have the font changed, I have the location changed, but this details profile is not mine. Okay, I got this off of the ElvUI subreddit, so you can go there and find it. If you go to ElvUI subreddit and like search for details, you will probably find it because it's one of the most popular details related posts on ElvUI's subreddit. Okay, so you can find it there and you can get it there, and then you can make adjustments as you see fit. But I don't want to share somebody else's work. That's not cool. But that's what I'm using, and I've altered it slightly and moved it to a different location on the screen. So that's what I'm doing, and yeah, it works for me. So, but yeah, that's what I do. I could easily move it to the right side, put chat on the left side. I mean, you could do that. It's not a big deal. So yeah, I wanted to make that clear. I don't put that in the ElvUI right panel anymore. I just use one panel now. So, your cooldown text is pretty much, I think, set to by default. Data bars, I don't use any of these. I used to use the experience one, but since I have console port now, the experience one, I just don't use it anymore. I am going to do something real quick here, just so that way if you do use it, you'll have it in where you can see it. I'm just going to make a minor adjustment there, and so that way you can actually find it. I had it set up a very specific way for a very specific reason, and that's why it's like that. But yeah, I don't use any of these because I use console port. But yeah, you can do any of these data bars. Honor, experience, reputation, pretty cool. I mean, it can be very useful, but I just don't use any of them. Okay. Same with data text. I don't really use any data text that this game provides. I don't have any of them available on my panels or my minimap. I don't use them. The only thing I do use is details damage meter. Sorry, not details damage. I use LocationPlus. My brain just like went somewhere. This is a plugin, so we'll go ahead and talk about this now since we're getting the data text. I do use this plugin called LocationPlus, and that is this frame up here at the top. I like it. I like how it looks. It's just a little bit nicer. It's better than having like a big bar that goes all the way across the top, in my personal opinion. And as you can tell, it shows where I'm at, my coordinates, and it shows my gold. I can see gold on all my characters on the server that I'm on, and then of course the time. It shows my local time, so that's also very useful. So those are the only data text that I use. Everything else I just have turned off. So that's what I have going on there. Next up is map. I use the map. It's just a little bit nicer and cleaner. And then the mini map I don't use. The ElvUI minimap is too small. Even when I scale it up, it's still too small. So I use an add-on called SexyMap, and there you go. You want to know where my SexyMap is? It's right there. The same logic that applies to my chat is the same logic that I use for my minimap. And this way, again, because I don't need to look at it all the time. I only need to look at it when I need to look at it. And so I can quickly press a button to show and hide it, look at it when I need to, and then put it away, and it's gone. And it's right in the middle of my screen. This is how I played Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV has a map that you can toggle on and off that does go right in the middle of your screen. And so I use WoW's minimap in the same way that I used Final Fantasy XIV's map, and it worked really well in that game. And you know what? It actually works really well in this game. So like right now, I pop it on when I'm farming. If I was wanting to go get that copper node over there, I could easily just run over there and grab it. And then when I'm not worrying about that, I can just turn it off. Because either way, for me, I can't just like side of my eye look up at my minimap. If it's up in the corner, I would still have to go out of my way to look at it. So the logic for me is pressing a button to look at it and not have to go out of my way is better than having it tucked away on my screen, taking up space, and I can't even see it anyways. So that's, again, how I have it set up. You can use ElvUI's minimap if you want to. You'll probably have to do some setting up with it because I don't use it. I have never used it, but you can put it wherever you want. You can use the movers, or you can use SexyMap. If you like how I have SexyMap for whatever reason, just know it's just scaled up a little bit and it's square. That's all you have to do. There's no need to like get my profile or anything like that. So but I just like how SexyMaps looks, and it's just much easier for me to see. So that's the minimap. Next up, nameplates. So this is kind of a bigger one in a lot of ways. So the only nameplates that I use are my player nameplate and enemy nameplates. I keep friendly nameplates turned off. So I only have enemy nameplates on. So if I cast this heal, you'll see, and I have that trinket that turns me into different characters, which is kind of funny. So you can see down at the bottom there, my player nameplate. Now in retail, this is anchored to me, which is really cool. In Classic, which you should be able to import the same profile into retail and into Classic, I believe, but in Classic, you don't have that anchored to you. You have to use the static one, so that may be a setting that you have to turn on if you want to use the player nameplate, but it's just a simple, health bar. It's just easy, right in the middle of the screen for me to see, anchored to me, and I always know where it's at. It's always by my character, so that way I have easy access to my health and my mana or whatever resource I'm using on my character. So that's what that looks like there. Again, you can use the player nameplate in Classic. You just have to make it static because the anchored one does not exist, unfortunately. And then of course there's the nameplate for enemies. That's what it looks like. And then I can target different ones. Now, I want to point this out. The Holy Power that you're seeing there, that's not from ElvUI. That is a weak aura. That's not my weak aura, so much like how I have my damage meter set up. This is a weak aura that I got from the weak aura website, and I just put it in, and it's awesome, and I like the way it looks. I like more stylized like things like that. They're easier for me to see than like the ElvUI default one. So if that's something that you want to use, again, I don't want to share all of my weak auras because, like I said, they're not mine, but you can easily find these on the Weak Auras website. You just search for Holy Power and you'll find it. I mean, there are different ones, and there may even be ones that you like better than what I have. So there are those out there if you want to use them. But yeah, that's not through ElvUI. I just wanted to make that clear. But that's what the nameplates look like. They're really easy to see, kind of bright because of the clean bar that I'm using, and yeah, and they have that little outline. So they're big and bright. They're easy to see, and I just like how they look. Plater is an incredible add-on that can do a lot of cool things, but I've just been using the ElvUI ones. Remember that if you use Plater, then you can just go in here and turn off the nameplates. This will not turn off nameplates in the game. It will turn off ElvUI's nameplate module. So that way you can use Blizzard's default ones, or you can use Plater if you want to, because a lot of people really do like Plater. So I want to keep that in mind as well. Next up, skins. This is pretty cool, actually. You can go through and have ElvUI replace the default skins of the different panels in the game. This can work for some add-ons if you have a plugin called Addon skins. It will do the same thing. You can hide parchment if you want to, which is pretty useful, though it's not working as well right now as it used to before the new pre-patch started. So that's something, but yeah, pretty cool. That way, if you like the dark look of ElvUI, you can go in and set all that up there. So tooltip, the big thing about tooltips is that it's mouse over. So that's mainly what it is, and of course font size. So if I mouse over stuff, rather than the tooltip being in the bottom right, it's in the middle or wherever my mouse is. For one, it's nice to keep track of. It makes it easier to see the tooltips. And for two, if I lose my cursor, I can just start going crazy with it, and then I'll find it because a tooltip will pop up. So that's what I do with that. It's great, and that's what it's for. Then we get to the big thing. Okay, this is the unit frames. This is the other major thing that I use ElvUI for. So the unit frames are obviously the player frame here, and then of course we have the target frame over here. They look very similar, just opposite. Now, if you have a hunter pet, then the missing part here, it was where your hunter pet will go. And on this side, if you have a focus target, the focus target will go here. So it just kind of completes the bar. That's where those are. But yeah, that's basically it. We already looked at like buffs and debuffs and stuff like that. Now, these portraits, okay, this is another plugin requirement, right? So these portraits that I have set up come from a plugin called Media Tag and Tools, which you can find on CurseForge. I'll have a link to that, as well as LocationPlus in the comments below. If you want my portrait set up, then you will need this plugin for it, and I have them set up the way I do. This is another, I want to make this very clear and give recognition. The way I have these set up is directly from how somebody else on the WowUI subreddit has them set up. You know, I'll share a link to all that in the description. The stuff on WowUI that I use for my UI, I'll share links to those. Yeah, so I have mine set up similarly to how they do, just in different location, a couple minor changes. But the idea I totally got from WowUI, and I just loved how it looked. Just like the style of it, and that's what I'm going with. But yeah, you can do a lot of cool things in this add-on. I don't take advantage of most of it. I have a lot of the different things turned off. I might go through slowly and just look at different things that it has. But yeah, so you can go down into cosmetic, and then you go to the portraits, and then you can go through and set all that up for all the different frames, which is pretty neat. And it's just a cool little feature. I like how it looks. So that's how my unit frames look the way they do. You need that module. If you don't have that module, then you'll have the same bar. It'll look the same way. It just won't have the portraits. So yeah, and then the other major feature that I use, that I've been using with this media tools, I believe, is the somewhere in here. I think, you know what? There's so much, I'm not entirely sure, but I think you can do some quest log stuff, the quest tracker that's hidden, because I hide a lot of my my quests. So if I show quests here, you can see it there. Again, font is humongous because I'm visually impaired, but that's what my quest log looks like. A lot of times I have quests hidden because it does take up a lot of space, and I don't use it too often, but I do like how that one looks, and I'm pretty sure that comes from a module within this plugin. So I'm sorry I can't just go find it. There's a lot here, please forgive me, but that's what my quest tracker would look like. But anyway, let's go back to unit frames, right? That's what we're kind of talking about here. So yeah, pretty standard stuff. You can see what it looks like there. You know where the pet is. You see where my buffs and debuffs go. Same with the target. Those are pretty much mirrored. Now, when we get into raid frames and group frames, I'll go ahead and show you here. We can just go into... I have a lot of these turned off, like the boss frames, arena. I don't do that stuff, so I'm sorry if that's something that you'd be interested in, but you're probably going to have to set that up yourself. But if I go into party, I can display frames, and there you go. You can see what the party frames look like. Now, I don't show my frame in the party frame because my frames is here. I don't feel like I need to have it on there twice, so you see your 4 party members, right? That's what they look like. They have their own little portraits, pretty standard. Don't have too much information going on there. I don't want to have too much to look at, but I believe it's just going to show if there is an ability that you can get rid of. If you can decurse it, then that'll pop up in the middle there. That's what that is. But otherwise, it's not going to show all the buffs they have. So if that's detailed information you'd like, you're going to have to go in and set all that up. But that's what they look like. I try to keep them as simple as possible. The raid frames are a little more compact. So this is for a 10-man. That's what the raid frame would look like. Very similar, but I dropped the portrait. Same idea though, just 2 sets of 5. With raid frames, I have included my frame just for the ease of how it's set up. So that's what that looks like. And then if you have anything more than 10, it's going to look like this. So this is 20, 25, 40, whatever. This is what it's going to look like. So they're much more compact, and there's a lot more of them. So that's what they look like. Again, you can go in and adjust these if you want to. You can move them around if you're like healing, you want them somewhere else. There's a lot of cool settings that you can go through and do here, but that's how I have mine set up. So that's a lot of information there. So keep in mind, this is my UI, and it's set up. A lot of it's for my, specific needs and what I'm doing. So some of it may be appealing, some of it may not be. But again, I will share a link to my profile. You can go ahead and take a look at that. And then settings, just eye it. If my profile is not working, you want to use this, then I would eyeball it, take the ideas just like I did, and incorporate them your way. Make your UI your own, and you'll appreciate it much more. It may take a little bit of work, but that's what you do. You get your UI the way you want it, and the more you do and focus on things that suit you, the happier you will be with your UI. So that's something to remember. Unfortunately, it's just not something that I can just give you out of box. It'll give you everything that you want, but yeah, I don't think that's what most people are expecting. And so I hope that I'm able to provide something that will help you. If you like how mine's set up, then it'll help you get started on it. So there are a lot of cool things out there that you can do through these add-ons, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's pretty much it. There really isn't any other add-on that I need to go over in regards to my UI. It's mostly just ElvUI for the unit frames, for the nameplates, for the font, turning off a few features, hiding and showing chat, and then of course we have BetterBags for my bags. We have SexyMap for my mini map, and then we use details damage meter, and then of course the bottom is console port. That's pretty much it. I'll try to provide as much help as I can in the description to send you links, to send you my ElvUI profile, everything that you need. Again, I want to remind you, you should be able to import my ElvUI profile into Classic. There may be a few different settings that you might have to go through because Classic does function a little bit differently, and there are some features that Retail has that Classic does not, but ElvUI most certainly does work in Classic, and I tried to keep my profiles as similar as possible. So hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. With all that being said, I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button, and feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.